how are we doing today? We are working on section 4, network security. I actually wanted to start this with a YouTube video. Let's see if I can find it. If I can find it really quick, we're gonna start it with the YouTube video. Because a lot of people are telling me that it's dead, that security, like cybersecurity is dead because of AI, and I think literally the exact opposite. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Yeah, it might be buried. God dang, I watch so much YouTube, it's ridiculous. Here, you know what? I have a better idea. No, that was it. That was it. Okay. Now let's try it.
So I'm sure
and we will where's my first monitor? Okay, we're gonna watch this real quick. Gotta make it small enough. All right, that's good enough. Okay, we're gonna watch this real quick because I think it's important.
you've all heard of AI agents and how they're all just going to take all of our jobs. But are you sure about that? What if an AI agent costs your company $250,000? Who's even responsible for that? I'm Alex Mead, and this is the AI Report, and we're going to get into just that story today. So here's the scenario. You have a rather benign AI agent, quote unquote, processing standard work desk tickets, things like updating customer records, okay? Except one of those tickets wasn't like the others. It was a malicious request to update a trusted vendor's bank account information in another customer's ERP system. You wouldn't think that would be that big of a deal, just updating some information for a client. But obviously we understand bank accounts are very sensitive information. When the automated invoice payment system rolled through, and this is a trusted client with a long history of payments, it automatically authorized a $250,000 bank transfer to a fraudulent bank account. And that money is officially gone. When people try to tell you, oh, AI agents, they're just going to be replacing your jobs, they're already replacing our jobs. Not so fast. All the savings of a $250,000 mistake are eviscerated very quickly when it comes to AI agents doing things like this. Now, maybe eventually we will have AI agents that can handle this, but it's certainly not yet, okay? So who's responsible for this mistake? Is it the developer that wrote the agent? Is it the company that hired the person that wrote the agent? Or is it the fraudsters themselves? Maybe it's somebody else. Why don't you tell me who you think is responsible down in the comments below, and I'll come join the discussion.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to show that is because I keep hearing from a lot of people that that cybersecurity is dead, AI is going to take over, it's going to take all the jobs, like blah, 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 blah. Yes, there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be displaced because of AI, but there's going to be a lot of new jobs that are going to open up. And it's going to be very tech-savvy jobs that get opened. And I think cybersecurity is going to be the next big thing. There's going to be, and this is all 100% just my opinion. Yeah, there's going to be a certain level of cybersecurity that will be automated. But there's going to be another level of cybersecurity. Like, if you are a business and you're hiring an AI agent, how do you know that AI agent is not nefarious? How do you know that like you didn't write the code and you don't know how to code? So how are you going to look at the code to see if it's nefarious or not? You're not going to be able to. So just that alone is a need that needs to be filled. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we are very far away from having cybersecurity being completely 100% automated. Maybe one day it will be. And it'll probably be one of the last things that get automated, in my opinion, because it needs, like, because even if you get another company to outsource, hey, can you screen all my AI agents to make sure the code's not nefarious? Sure can. I have a AI that can do it for us. You know what I'm saying? It's just like an endless loop kind of thing. And you can always throw in the argument to be like, well, people are nefarious. Yeah, you're right. People are nefarious. And I could have a business that's fraudulent and say that I'm checking the whatever. You know, it could be like one of the, the ice cream machine scandal that happened at McDonald's, where the ice cream machines were always broken, but they like had this deal with the ice cream machine company, and they were like double dipping, and it was like this crazy thing. Sure, like that can happen. No big deal. Well, big deal, but like I recognize that it could happen. But I digress. I just wanted to do that so that way you guys could see that this is probably the biggest field and the biggest thing that's going on. Not just the troubleshooting aspect, but the cybersecurity aspect of it. So let's go ahead. We're going to dive in. This one's going to be a big one. All right, everything should be working. Let's just double check. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. Sometimes it needs to be primed a little bit. There it goes.
Which of the following do asset tracking tags use to allow electronic surveillance of managed assets and help prevent theft of assets?
Okay. So which of the following do asset tracking tags use to follow electronic surveillance of managed assets and to help prevent asset theft? Radio frequency identification, near field communication. I'm going to go with this one. Yes. Yeah, radio frequency identification is what I thought. NFC, that's like the tap to pay. That's how like you can tap something and it'll pay on your phone or your card.
A customer at a retail store notices that ads are pushed to their mobile device if they are within physical proximity to the store. Which technology uses these types of location services to configure policies specific to a user or device's physical location?
Geofencing. What a lot of people don't understand is the amount of data that is being used and shared from you against you. So like if you like GPS, it's being shared with almost all the things. If you really ask yourself like, why does this application need to know my location? If you're using some type of like legitimate GPS or like something that like I have an app that's like called Stargazer that like shows me like the stars and like whatever. Okay, I get it. But I have quite a few apps. Some of them that are not Instagram. I can't quite remember, but I know that I have quite a few apps that are always asking me for my location. I'm sure that you have some too. Just because I can't think of an example right now doesn't mean that they don't exist. Why? Why do they need to know your location? They don't need to know your location. This is how Walmart is able to send you Walmart ads when you're inside Walmart. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just one small aspect of it.
Which authentication method allows users to authenticate to the wireless network against a Radius server using their regular network credential?
Extendable authentication protocol. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's good. MAC filtering is filtering out MAC addresses. Control plane policy. I don't quite remember. Maybe I should have put unsure on this one so we could have gone back.
Refresher 4.1. An organization is using a Windows server with a network policy server role to authenticate Active Directory users for remote access to the internal network. What security solution is being used?
Radius, right? It's not a multi-layer switch. It's not load balancer. It's not router. This is a very easy one. Watch me get it wrong. Ooh, what a clown would I have looked like?
What method mitigates the risk associated with the default administrator account having unrestricted access to the device?
Configured role-based access. Disabled unneeded network services. Not the authentic protocol, and not disabled. Sure. Excuse me. Sorry. Tried not to yawn in the mic. What method mitigates the risk associated with default administrator accounts have unrestricted access to the device? Yeah. So this goes back to, I think, what we were talking about last time, where it's like certain admin only have certain rights. There's a hierarchy of admin. There actually used to be that stuff kind of built into Windows. I don't think it's there anymore.
Which of the following protocols detects when a server crashes and allows users to remotely authenticate with administrative privileges to routers and switches?
Terminal access controller access control system. Possibly. Remote authentication dial-in user server. Oh, it might be Radius. Directory service. No, directory service is like the directory within the command prompt. Lightweight directory access portal? I don't know. I was right, but I'm glad I didn't do that because I wanted to clarify those.
Which of the following works directly with programmable logical controllers, PLCs, in an industrial complex?
Wireless printer? No. Smart refrigerators? It's got to be SCAD, right? Like what are we doing? Is it just me, or do these seem easy?
A company has tasked a sysadmin with blocking access to company resources, including corporate email, on employees' personal cell phones. What kind of policy is the sysadmin not implementing regarding personal devices?
This is easy. Bring your own device. Onboarding is bringing someone onto the company. Change management has nothing to do with anything. I don't know what DLP is. All right. There we go. Next question. Let's see what we have here.
Terminal Access Controller Access Control System plus TACACS Plus authenticates administrative access to routers and switches. TACACS Plus uses TCP over port 49, and the reliable delivery offered by TCP makes it easier to detect when a server is down, and encrypts all the payload and packets. Directory Services is a network service that stores identity information about all the objects in a network, including users, groups, servers, client computers, and printers. Radius Remote Authentication Dial-in User Service is often used in VPN implementations and manages remote and wireless authentication infrastructures. Lightweight Directory Access Protocol (LDAP) is a network protocol that accesses network directory databases, which store information about authorized users and their privileges, as well as other organizational information.
Man, I don't know if it's my sunburn, all my ant bites, or my heat rash, but my legs itch really bad. I went on a fishing trip a few days ago, and I was kayaking. Oh man, it was a lot of fun, but my legs are destroyed.
Let's break this remote authentication and crash detection question down in full. 1. Restate the question. Which protocol can detect when a server crashes and allow remote user authentication, specifically with admin privileges to routers and switches? 2. Simplified answer. TACACS plus Terminal Access Controller Access Control System plus.
Okay, can we just talk for a second about how ridiculous this name is and how fake it is? Terminal Access Controller Access Control System Plus. Like, what is this, a palindrome? Like this is the most redundant thing I've ever heard ever. Terminal Access Controller Access Control System Plus. You can't just add a plus to something and add value to it. It doesn't work like that.
Plus. It provides remote administrative authentication and can handle server failure fallback scenarios. 3. Analogy. Think of TACAX Plus like a secure gatekeeper, who not only checks IDs before letting you into a control room admin access to a switch, but also has a backup plan if their main security system fails, ensuring you still get in safely and with proper rights. 4. In-depth explanation. TACAX Plus developed by Cisco for centralized authentication, authorization, and accounting AAA, commonly used for admin access to network devices, routers, switches, firewalls. Granular access control per command or user. Runs over TCP port 49 for reliability. Separates authentication, authorization, and accounting, unlike Radius. Can be configured to fail over to local device credentials if the TACAX Plus server crashes, enabling emergency access. Radius. Also a AAA protocol used primarily for user access like Wi-Fi logins. Doesn't separate auth accounting and less control over admin privilege levels. Less commonly used for router switch admin access. Directory services. General term for systems that store user and resource data, like Active Directory. Not a protocol itself, doesn't provide authentication logic directly. LDAP Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. A protocol used to query and modify directory services like ADA. Often used with authentication systems, but doesn't handle fallback or admin-level control on network gear by itself. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A network engineer uses TACAX Plus to control access to all switches in a large campus. Each time an admin logs in, TACAX Plus authenticates them and logs every command they type. During a server outage, the switches fall back to local accounts, still allowing access for emergency troubleshooting, a feature Radius and LDAP can't handle as gracefully. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Man, that was a lot. A lot of these protocols and all these things. My thing is how does this all correlate with SSH? Doesn't SSH also allow you to securely access the control panel? So, follow-up question. Whoa, my fat fingers. How does great follow-up. I think ChatBot it reinforces you a little too much. I mean, sure, it makes you feel good, but at the same time, like, come on, like.
Great follow-up. Let's break down how TACAX Plus, Radius, Directory Services, and LDAP relate to SSH Secure Shell in a full, clear comparison using your format. 1. Restate the question. How do TACAX Plus, Radius, Directory Services, and LDAP relate to SSH, especially in the context of authentication and remote access? 2. Simplified answer. SSH is the remote access protocol used to connect to network devices or servers.
Okay.
The other protocols, services, TACAX Plus, Radius, LDAP, Directory Services, are authentication systems that determine who can use SSH and what permissions they have when they connect.
Man, there's so much of this stuff that's like layered on top of each other. Some of it seems like not redundant, but asinine. But I also understand why it is. Kind of like how DNS uses PAT. Like, not DNS, so, DHCP uses PAT. Like, isn't DNH or DHCP, isn't its job already to do that? But no, its job is literally one thing. Why is this taking so long? Okay, come on. Oh, it stopped generating. Dope. Fantastic. Good old AI gonna take over my job. Can't even reply. I guess the same as George in the next hallway. I sent him an email 2 weeks ago. He still hasn't replied. Okay. They don't replace this. Instead, they work alongside SSH to control who can log into it. Okay. All right.
Three, analogy. Think of SSH as the secure door to your data center. It's the tunnel or hallway. But the door needs a security check authentication system to verify who you are before letting you in. That's where TakeHacks Plus, Radius, LDAP, and directory services come in. They're like ID scanners or access lists that control entry through the SSH door.
Okay. So SSH Secure Shell provides encrypted terminal access to remote systems used for remote admin tasks, especially in Linux and Unix systems. Man, Linux is like hard. Okay, switches, routers, etc. By itself, SSH can authenticate users. So SSH is just an authentication, and it allows people to use the TACAX Plus, the Radius, the LAP, things like that. Local username, password, public, private keys. Oh, good. We have a nice little thing right here. I'll move that to the other side. TACAX Plus related to SSH. SSH can use TACAX Plus to authenticate users trying to log in. Can be configured to authenticate users. Tied to directory services for logging in credentials. So it's more of a, I don't call it a service, but it's an authentication. Okay. TaxS Plus is centralized AAA system level admin level. Commonly, the Radius is commonly used for user level access, especially for Wi-Fi and VPN, less granular than TaxX Plus. So this is more like person. This is more like admin or employee admin. Just kind of give it a hierarchy kind of thing there. Directory services acts as user database that SSH can reference via LDAP or Kerberos. Ooh, I forgot about Kerberos. So Kerberos deals with directory services. See, this is why I like doing stuff on ChatBotGPT, because like if you ask it the right question, you can use it to learn. If you ask it and use it wrong, you can have it do all the thinking and then you get dumber. LDAP protocol used to look up user info from directory services, not completely authentication method by itself, but used by systems like PAM. Okay. See a workflow. I think this is going to make a lot of sense. Let's do it.
Workflow example. A user tries to SSH into a router. The device checks the username, password. Instead of checking its local user database, it forwards the request to a TechHacks Plus server. The TechHacks Plus server checks the credentials and tells the device to grant or deny access. SSH then opens the shell if access is granted. The same process can happen with Radius or LDAP-backed systems, depending on the setup. An enterprise uses LDAP Connected Active Directory to manage all users. Network admins configure Linux servers and network devices to allow SSH logins only from ad-verified accounts. When an engineer logs in via SSH, the server forwards the authentication request to LDAP ad, allowing centralized login control across all devices. In higher security environments, TakeHacks Plus is used instead, so every SSH command can be logged and admin access is tightly controlled.
Wow. It's crazy how secure things are and how people still are able to get in. You know? I mean, it doesn't happen like super often, but it's still like, you know what I mean? All right.
Which type of authentication factor should be applied if a network administrator wants to implement a method incorporating gestures as either an intrusion detection or continuous authentication mechanism, despite its susceptibility to error?
Okay. Something you know is your password. Something you have is like a key card. Something you are is like biometrics. It's like your thumbprint, your eye or something. And then something you do is like where instead of putting in a pin, you have to like swipe in a pattern. Okay. All right. Good. I figured that out. Let's read the question again.
Which type of authentication factor should be applied if a network administrator wants to implement a method incorporating gestures as either an intrusion detection or continuous authentication mechanism, despite its susceptibility to error?
I'm going to say something you do. Yeah. Man, when I was first reviewing this, I don't know why, but that was really hard for me to figure
An
out.
IT manager is focusing on privileged access management (PAM) that focuses on policies, procedures, and technical controls that prevent malicious abuse of privileged accounts. Which general PAM principle would ensure members of the IT team are only granted sufficient rights to perform their duties?
Least privileged. Now, zero trust means you don't trust literally anything that comes in. Everything's got to be checked. Separation of duties, I'm not gonna lie, I don't quite remember what that one is. Role-based access sounds like what this is, but it's not. Least privileged means that you are giving someone the least amount of privilege they possibly need in order to do what it is that they need to do. Yes. Good. Let the hate flow through you.
Users on a network are complaining about entering credentials each time they want to access multiple login portals. What can the network administrator implement to prevent the need for users to re-authenticate to access different resources? Select 2.
Okay, so a single sign-on is going to do that. Single sign-ins are great. The only drawback on them is that, like, if one person gets compromised, a lot of programs get compromised. So it's kind of like a shotgun, in my opinion. Single authentication, maybe. What do we do? We just learned something about Kerberos was directory, right? SSH can't. So I don't think it's gonna be Kerberos. I think it's gonna be single. Let's try it. No, it was Kerberos. Or maybe it's multi-factor authentication with an SSO. That's pretty common. That's what I have at work.
A security engineer suggests placing a computer system that can provide early warning of attacks near the screened subnet of the perimeter network. The system is designed to attract attackers by providing bogus data that may seem appealing to outsiders. What type of security measure does the security engineer want to implement near the network edge?
The honeypot. So demilitarized zone, no, that's for like you and accessing stuff. Network access control, no. Network segmentation enforcement. I mean, maybe, but I'm pretty sure it's honeypot. Yeah. So if you don't know, the true definition of a honeypot is where like you have like Project Veritas. I don't know if you've seen any of those articles before, but what the reporters do is they send out really hot women, and they get these officials, these politicians, these technocrats, people like whatever. They get them, and what they do is they sit them down, they make them think that they're gonna have sex with them, and they basically seduce them, and they sing like a canary, man. They drop everything. Project Veritas has like uncovered so many things. It's pretty crazy.
What is the difference between an exploit and a vulnerability?
Here we go. Let's have it read it all
A
down.
vulnerability is a security weakness. An exploit is a means of utilizing a vulnerability. A vulnerability is a security weakness. An exploit is the internal threat of the company. A vulnerability is the potential for someone to breach security. An exploit is the likelihood of a threat exercising a vulnerability. A vulnerability is the potential for someone to breach security. An exploit is an external attacker.
Oh, so we got some things going on. So vulnerability is definitely a security weakness. The question is, what is an exploit? An exploit is the means to utilize the vulnerability, or is an exploit the likelihood a threat is going to exercise a vulnerability? Whenever I'm trying to figure out the semantics of a word, I always try to like compare it to something else. So exploit. So if you're going to exploit somebody, if you are you going to go to jail for exploiting a child because the likelihood that you are going to do it, or because you actually did it. People don't go to jail. Well, I mean, yes, you can, but they don't normally go to jail for exploiting a kid because of the likelihood they were going to do it. They usually go to jail because they already did it, because exploit means that you actually did it. Exploit is an external attacker. This is the only other one that could be a thing. So vulnerability is the potential for someone to breach security. No, vulnerability is not the potential for someone to break security. It is a security weakness. These are two different things. Because anybody could... these are semantics. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Let's see what it says. Yeah, we'll come back to it. I'm a little interested in that one. Semantics, like words are really important.
A network administrator wants to implement authentication of administrative access to routers and switches. Which of the following is a reliable protocol that can achieve this, as well as detect when a server is down and encrypt all the payload and packets?
I'm pretty sure that's this. The terminal access controller, access control system plus, sir. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
Which of the following are network devices that provide security monitoring of an office perimeter against unauthorized access?
The HVAC sensors and the IP cameras. Why in the world would be a smart thermostat? And the only one that I could think of is smart doorbells, because the camera is implied. Yep, smart doorbells.
Mandatory monthly training needs to be implemented to educate all employees at a company about phishing and social engineering. The goal is to mitigate the risks associated with these types of attacks. What can the company's security engineer implement so the web training user directory database updates at the same time as Windows Active Directory?
Directory services, I'm fairly certain. So what they're wanting to do so that the web training user directory database updates at the same time as the Windows Active Directory. I think what they're trying to do is making sure that the people who are doing the training, it's being logged. I could be wrong. I could have just made a pretty big stretch. I made a pretty big stretch. Alright. It was Kerberos. Okay, maybe I don't understand what Kerberos is. That's good tea. Irish breakfast tea. It's for the men. The men who stay up late, wake up early, do what they have to do, even though they don't want to. Alright, let's see what this has to say.
Kerberos provides single sign-on. The system trusts a user once he or she confirms authentication and does not need re-authentication to access different resources. Single sign-on means that a user only has to authenticate to a system once to gain access to all its resources. That is, all the resources to which the user has been granted rights. Single-factor authentication systems can quite easily be compromised, since they only use one type of authentication factor for authentication and will not help when authenticating with multiple portals. An authentication technology or mechanism is strong if it combines the use of more than one authentication data type multi-factor. It will not help when authenticating with multiple portals.
Okay, so single-factor authentication, that's just like putting in your password. Cool, but I want to know is, where is this? Acts as a user database that SSH refers to LDAP or Kerberos. A directory service, and that's because Kerberos provides a single sign-on. Oh, Kerberos okay, it's not a single sign-on, it provides a single sign-on, which is why it's directory service, because it's tied to login credentials. Okay. What do you got for me?
Let's break this off. 2. Simplified answer. Kerberos single sign-on SSO. These two solutions work together to allow a user to log in once and then access multiple systems or services without re-entering credentials. 3. Analogy. Imagine going to a theme park. Without Kerberos, you have to show your ID at every ride. With SSO and Kerberos, you check in once at the entrance, get a wristband ticket.
So the SSO allows you to use one password to log into a whole bunch of things. Kerberos is a single factor authentication because it's just a password. All right.
Granting token. 4. In-depth explanation. Single sign-on SO, a system that allows users to log in once and access multiple applications or services without re-authenticating. Uses tokens or trust relationships to validate identity across platforms. Common with web portals, enterprise applications, and cloud services. Kerberos, a network authentication protocol that underpins many SSO implementations, especially in Windows and Active Directory environments. Uses ticket-based authentication. The user authenticates once and receives a ticket granting ticket TGT. This TGT is used to get access to other services without re-entering credentials. Secure and widely used in enterprise environments. Single-factor authentication just means using one method like a password. It doesn't solve the re-authentication problem, it's just weaker security. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, adds extra security layers, for example, password plus phone code. Increases login steps, not decreases them, opposite of what users want in this scenario. 5.
Yeah.
Real-world example or scenario. An organization uses Active Directory with Kerberos. Users log into their domain-connected PCs once in the morning. Thanks to SSO and Kerberos, they can access email, shared drives, HR systems, internal websites, all.
Okay, so the amount of people that complain about multi-step factor, the MFA, multi-factor authentication, is insane. Everyone I know complains about it so hard, and I get it. It's a pain in the ass. However, it's super. It's so much better. It's just so much better. And then on top of that, I know SSOs, like our SSO at work, it times out and you have to sign back in, and it times out. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of long, but at the same time, it's not. I think it's like 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, if you have no activity in the SSO automatically kicks you out, which is also kind of annoying. I get it. I understand it. It is protection. It is security. But yeah, it sucks. Smart doorbells. I have a feeling it's because smart doorbells have cameras in them, which was implied. Smart doorbells is considered an Internet of Things device that can monitor people coming to an office door and alert the... Oh, because it has a sensor.
Mandatory monthly training needs to be implemented to educate all employees at a company about phishing and social engineering. The goal is to mitigate the risks associated with these types of attacks. What can the company's security engineer implement so the web training user directory database updates at the same time as Windows Active Directory?
Kind of seems simple now that I'm reading it, but we're still going to get an in-depth answer from Chatbot GPT here. Let's see here. Next question. Man, I still can't type with my pinky. My left pinky, man. It is stupid. I cannot reach that Q. All right, here we go. What are we doing? All right, and then why that generates. Let's read. Whoa. Let's read this.
Most directory services are implementations of the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, LDAP. LDAP is not a directory standard, but a protocol used to query and update an X500 standard directory. LDAP is supported in current directory products such as Windows Active Directory. TakeAx Plus is used in authenticating administrative access to routers and switches. TakeAx Plus uses reliable delivery offered by TCP, making it easier to detect when a server is down. Directory Services is a network service that stores identity information about all the objects in a network, including users, groups, servers, client computers, and printers. VPN implementations use remote authentication dial in user service radius as a standard protocol to manage remote and wireless authentication infrastructures.
Okay. I got it.
Let's break this directory integrate. 2. Simplified answer. Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, LDAP. This is the protocol that allows external systems like the web training platform to query and synchronize with Active Directory. 3. Analogy. Think of Active Directory as the master guest list at a party. LDAP is like the clipboard that other systems use to check who's invited. When someone signs up for training, the web platform uses LDAP to say, "Let me double check with Ad. Is this person on the list?" If ad updates, so does the clipboard, automatically and
okay.
securely.
So I was
4.
right.
In-depth explanation. LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. A protocol, not a service. Used by applications to access and query user data from directory services like Microsoft Active Directory AD. LDAP allows the web-based training system.
I wonder if companies use this just as like a normal professional development thing to keep track that people have done whatever development that they needed to do.
2. Authenticate users based on their ad credentials. Import user lists directly from ad. Stay synced when changes happen, like new hires or role changes.
Yeah.
Very common in enterprise SSO and employee portal integrations. Directory services. This is a broad term, like Active Directory or OpenDAP, not a specific mechanism for integration. LDAP is the actual protocol used by directory services. TechHacks Plus used for network device admin access and
This is
command level
big boy
control.
stuff.
Not used for user synchronization or web app login. Radius, used for network access control, Wi-Fi, VPN. Can authenticate users against ad, but not ideal for directory sync or web training access. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A company rolls out a phishing awareness training platform like NoBay4. Rather than manually entering every employee into the system, they configure it to sync with Active Directory via LDAP. Now, when someone joins the company, they're automatically added to the training platform, and their login credentials are their existing ad username password. No extra setup needed. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
Speaking of phishing, does anybody know if there's a phishing phone call going around about Gemini? Not Gemini, the AI from Google. Gemini, the crypto trading platform. I haven't really looked into it. I got a phone call yesterday about it, and I was like, that's weird. And then I was like, I used to use Gemini, and I have no idea if I have crypto on there or not. So I don't know. But I thought that was very interesting that I got a phishing phone call about crypto, and very specifically about the Gemini, which is I'm pretty sure it's a decentralized platform. Like, not a lot of people know about that. You know what I mean? So I was going to look into it. Maybe I lost all my crypto. Maybe I'm no longer a millionaire. Who knows? All right. Yes. I wanted to learn more about this guy. Okay, here we go.
A vulnerability is a weakness, triggered or exploited to cause a security breach. An exploit is a means of using a vulnerability to gain control or damage a system. While a vulnerability is a weakness, an exploit is a means of using a vulnerability.
Is the means of using a vulnerability. So how do means and likelihood, are those the same? I feel like words really matter right now. Well, they always matter, but still. The breach of security, exploit is an external attacker. No, an external attacker is the hacker itself, not the exploit. Well, okay, the external attacker is the exploiter.
An internal or insider threat is one that has permissions to systems to exploit them. While an exploit is a means of using a vulnerability is a security weakness. An external attacker is one that does not have permissions to systems to exploit them. The potential to exercise a vulnerability to breach security is known as a threat. The likelihood and impact of a threat actor exercising a vulnerability is known as risk.
Yes. Okay. So likelihood means risk. Exploit means the means to do something. Right there. Means. Vulnerability is just a weakness. Internal threat is an internal attacker. Or an insider. Okay, this makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, going on to the next one.
Users on a network are complaining about entering credentials each time they want to access multiple login portals. What can the network administrator implement to prevent the need for users to re-authenticate to access different resources? Select 2.
Kerberos and SSO. Because Kerberos is the password itself.
What is the difference between an exploit and a vulnerability?
Okay, vulnerability is a security weakness, and the exploit is the means to utilize that vulnerability. Or utilizing it.
The help desk support team of a company is being overwhelmed with tickets requesting a solution to better manage the need to enter multiple passwords in different web portals. Which of the following would be a disadvantage of implementing a single sign-on SO as a solution?
Let's see here. Which of the following would be a disadvantage? Oh, A user authentication, compromising the user compromises multiple services. So if you get a hold of my password and you get onto the SSO, you now have access to everything, which is where least privileged comes in. Well, least privileged is mainly about admin, but point is that if I'm a small fry and you get my SSO, you're only getting my small fry stuff.
A security engineer is adding a new learning management system, LMS, to the corporate environment to provide monthly mandatory training for employees. Which of the following security methods will allow the engineer to automate updating the user directory database of the training platform to coincide with Windows Active Directory
I'm gonna lose
updates?
viewers on that one. All right. We just learned about that too. LDAP synchronizes.
Which of the following are network devices that provide
IP
security
cameras
monitoring of an office
and
perimeter
smart
against
doorbells.
unauthorized access? A network engineer wants to allow authorized users to be able to authenticate administrative access to routers and switches remotely. Which protocol allows this type of access, uses reliable delivery, and makes it easy to detect when a server is down?
So we have our keywords is authenticate, administrative access, routers, and switches. So this is big boy stuff. So it's going to be the terminal terminal access control system plus. Sir. Next.
Which of the following security methods is used to prevent unauthorized users from tailgating behind authorized users into secure buildings?
Oh. It's not a badge reader. So this is like physically, like someone's walking into a building and like you just kind of like walk behind them and you act like you're with them even though like you're not, and then you're able to gain access. So it's not a badge reader. That's not going to stop it. Locking racks, I don't think so. Access control vestibule. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That is where it's like a holding cell. You walk in and there's like another point of entry that you have to get through. So if they got in and then you get to this area, there's either a receptionist, there's another form of security. I'm pretty sure that's that one. Yes.
Mandatory monthly training needs to be implemented to educate all employees at a company about phishing and social engineering. The goal is to mitigate the risks associated with these types of attacks. What can the company's security engineer implement so the web training user directory database updates at the same time as Windows Active Directory?
If you can't tell, cybersecurity is the thing that interests me the absolute most.
Users on a network are complaining about entering credentials each time they want to access multiple login portals.
We already did this.
What can the network administrator implement to prevent the need for users to re-authenticate to access different resources?
This is why
Select
I like
two.
their study guide stuff, because if you're unsure of something, it's going to give you the question twice to make sure that you got it.
Which of the following are network devices that provide security monitoring of an office perimeter against unauthorized access?
IP cameras and smart doorbells. Let's go. Let's go. Look at that. Okay. Section 2. Let's go. Smart review.
Which of the following is spoofing associated with? Select 3.
Spoofing. Spoofing is not going to be brute force. That's where like you try every physical combination for a password in order to get in. Spoofing might be phishing because you're trying to trick them into clicking the whatever, like you've sent a fake email. So you've spoofed who you are to try to get them to click. De-authentication, I don't know. Biometrics, I'm gonna say it's phishing and biometrics. And here's why. Your thumbprint is not secure. Like all these iPhone users, and honestly, like I have an Android for the moment, like they're all like, Oh yeah, the phone, the thumb, and like whatever, like that's not secure. There's been tons of people who like literally will put tape on their thumb, peel it off, and then they'll have their thumbprint on it, put it on a glove, and it will work. Dang. I really thought those were the answers too.
Which of the following is not typically associated with a denial of service DoS attack?
Virtual local area network hopping. I'm gonna say de-authentication. Well, no, it's gotta be brute force. Brute force has nothing to do with service at all. It's just the matter of you trying every single combination that is physically possible. Kind of like the Library of Babel. Yeah. So then that means, hold, let's just look this up real quick. Really, Gemini? You're not going to give me anything? Attack is a type of denial of service attack. Okay. That targets communities between a user and a Wi-Fi wireless access point. Okay, that makes sense.
Which of the following types of attacks describe an attacker eavesdropping between two endpoints of communication, or an attacker impersonating a legitimate company?
Shoulder sniffing, right? No, shoulder sniffing is when you're like looking over someone's, like you're physically looking over someone's shoulder to see what they're typing and see what they got going on. So what they're doing is they're eavesdropping between two endpoints. So it's got to be on path, because tailgating is when you're following somebody, you're physically following somebody. Command and control. I don't know what that one is. Okay, let's look up command and control real quick. Network, there it is. A method of cyber criminals use to communicate with compromised devices within a target company. Okay, that makes sense. So like malware or some type of malware, and now they're in. So now they're using the compromised devices and telling them what to do from a remote location, which has nothing to do with eavesdropping. That is what they do after they've eavesdropped.
An attacker used deauthentication to interpose a rogue access point AP to perform a denial of service DoS attack against a wireless infrastructure. Which of the following is the wireless encryption security protocol that is most vulnerable to this type of attack?
Most vulnerable to the type of attack? It's one of these two. It's one of those two. Because WPA was the original like security thing, and then it quickly got replaced by WPA 2, and then now there's WPA 3. WEP, wired equivalent privacy. No. So our answer choices using our test taking skills. Our answer choices is a wired question, or wired answer, Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi. I'm gonna go with WPA. Because it says deauthentication imposed on a rogue access point. Access points are usually Wi-Fi. They can be used to extend as an extender in terms of a cable, but not a lot of times. Okay. I'm officially confused. We'll come back to that one.
An attacker configures their device to appear the same as another device on the network. Which type of attack is being used?
An attack configures their device to appear the same as another device on a network. This, I think it's max spoofing. I want to know what these other things are. I know what a directory attack is, but these other things. See what I mean by the stupid acronyms? We have ARP. Oh, poisoning. Okay, never mind. Same ARP. But there is another ARP that's out there. I like it that in the A+, they made it seem like Mac spoofing was like, yeah, it can kind of happen, but like it's really hard. Like you're not going to do it. And then in this one, now that I'm doing the Network Plus, it's like, oh yeah, dude, Mac spoofing happens all the time. You got to watch out for it.
An attacker installs a backdoor application on multiple compromised machines. Which of the following attack types can trigger the zombies to launch simultaneously through this backdoor? Select 3.
Okay. Distributed reflection I think it's this one. And I think it's logic bomb as well. I think a logic bomb is where you coordinate everything that happened at once. Okay, no. I'm not doing it near as good as I did in the last section.
What type of attack involves broadcasting unsolicited gratuitous reply packets with spoofed source addresses, followed by launching a man-in-the-middle METM attack?
A man in the middle. It's not going to be ransomware. Ransomware is where you take control of someone's computer and then you demand money to get it back. Or some forms, something like that. Like it's literally ransom. De-authentication is going to be a DOS. So, a type of attack that involves broadcasting unsolicited reply packets. So, yeah, okay. With spoofed, I'm going to say de-authentication. Dang. Packets with spoofed source addresses. Followed by launching a man-in-the-middle attack. Address resolved. An ARP cache poisoning? Because it said MAC addresses. Where did it say? With spoofed source addresses. I'm assuming that means MAC. So it should have been an ARP cache poisoning, maybe?
Bank employees receive an email informing them that their account is compromised and they needed to update their credentials immediately. Once they click the link provided, they are taken to a site that appeared to be legitimate. However, after entering their credentials, passwords are sent to the hacker's database. Which type of attack have the employees fallen victim to?
Okay. This one's tough on the surface because ransomware is the one you can immediately throw out. It's not ransomware. Okay. The bank employees receive an email. Makes you think that it's phishing. Okay. Informing them that their accounts are compromised and they need to update their credentials immediately. Once they click the link, now we're farming. Okay, once they click their link and provide, they are taken to a site that appears to be legitimate. Oh, now it looks like an evil twin. Although an evil twin is usually with an SSID. So it's either phishing or farming. I'm going to say it's farming because they clicked a link that took them somewhere else. Okay. Oh, damn it. It said select 3. And it only selected 2. Well, now we know what de-authentication is, so this makes sense. We'll listen to the first little bit of this, and then we'll go to the next one.
Biometrics is an authentication scheme based on physical characteristics. One of the main problems with biometric technology is that it is vulnerable to spoofing methods.
Yes.
De-authentication attacks send spoofed DOS frames to de-authenticate a client from an AP, which allows an attacker to interpose a rogue AP or perform a DDoS attack. The flaws in WEP allow attackers using WEP cracking tools.
I will say that the biometrics, now that we have AI in the photo recognition, is so much better. I have a feeling that that's going to become a much more legitimate thing. Not necessarily with the thumbprint, but for other things like face recognition, your eyes, something like that. I think that's going to become significantly stronger in the coming years. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, them having to be able to face recognize so well, but I think it's going to get better.
Phishing is a combination of social engineering exploiting human trust, manipulating people into performing actions they might not otherwise perform, and spoofing disguising one computer resource as another.
Yeah. Phishing is, in my opinion, phishing is a plague on society. It is what literally destroys trust in all of people. So, like, if you're someone who's phishing for something, like, you are, to me, you are the scum of the scum. This makes it hard for me to build trust with anybody because you're just immediately standoffish. And anything that is remotely close to that, by the way, in my opinion, is just absolutely like the scourge of the sea. Okay, explain to me why it was WEP, because it was wired.
Deauthentication attacks send spoofed DOS frames to deauthenticate a client from an AP, which allows an attacker to interpose a rogue AP or perform a DDoS attack. The flaws in WEP allow attackers using web cracking tools. Deauthentication attacks work against WPA as well as WEP. However, WPA is much more secure than WEP. Both WEP and WPA use the RC4 cipher, but WPA adds TKIP to make it stronger.
All right, let's see this. How is WEP? The answer, when it is wired, and the question is asking about wireless. Dang it. I should have double checked that. All right, what are you going to say? Excellent question. Let's break it down in the full step-by-step method. Thank you. Thank you very much for doing that. My thread's getting a little too long. I can tell. It's taking a long time for it to reply.
Excellent question. Let's break this down in full, step by step. 1. Restate the question. An attacker used deauthentication to set up a rogue access point and perform a wireless DOS attack. Which wireless encryption protocol is most vulnerable to this kind of attack? 2. Simplified answer. VWP wired equivalent privacy. Despite the name, it is a wireless encryption protocol and extremely vulnerable to various attacks, including deauthentication and rogue AP exploits. 3. Analogy. Think of WEP like a wooden lock on a metal door. It looks secure, but it's easy to smash with a hammer. Deauthentication attacks are one of the tools attackers can use to break the lock and replace it with a fake door rogue AP. 4. In-depth explanation. Wired equivalent privacy. Despite the word wired in the name,
Okay. Just think for a second with that analogy that it did. Can you imagine if your plan to break into someone's house was to go to their front door, remove it, replace it with a new door that has a lock that you have a key to? Like, just like think about that for a second. How stupid would that be in the physical world? And then for the person who lives at that home to come home and not be able to tell a difference. Crazy.
WEP is a wireless security protocol. It was designed to provide data confidentiality on Wi-Fi networks.
So then why is it
WEP
called
was part of the
wired?
original 802.11 standard for WEP Wi-Fi. Major vulnerabilities. Weak encryption RC4. Static keys, same key used over and over. Susceptible to packet sniffing, replay attacks, and yes, deauthentication attacks. Deauthentication attacks exploit the fact that management frames like DOS messages aren't encrypted in older protocols like WEP and WPA. WPA and WPA2.
Yeah. And
More
there's
secure, but
WPA3
early
now.
versions of WPA were still vulnerable to DOS plus rogue AP combo attacks, especially in PSK pre-shared key mode. WPA2 introduced AES encryption, but still didn't encrypt management frames, meaning DOS attacks were still possible. 5. Why the name wired is misleading. You're right to ask. The name wired equivalent privacy was meant to imply that wireless security could be as strong as that of wired Ethernet. Unfortunately, the name was optimistic. WEP turned out to be deeply flawed.
Are you
It's
kidding me? Are you? No, there's no way that's real. The name wired equivalent privacy was meant to imply that wireless security could be as strong as wired Ethernet. Unfortunately, that's why it's called wired equivalent. because it's saying that this Wi-Fi, this wireless privacy thing that they made is equivalent to it being wired, and then it immediately got wrecked. Okay. God.
Absolutely a wire. 6. Real-world example or scenario. An attacker targets a coffee shop's public Wi-Fi still using WebP. They send DoF packets to force users off the real network. Then they set up a rogue AP with the same SSID, tricking devices into reconnecting to the fake one. Now the attacker can sniff all traffic or redirect users to malicious sites, all because WEP is too weak to protect against this type of manipulation. Final answer, WEP.
It's the most vulnerable wireless protocol. Okay. We already spent enough time on this. Let's move on. Dang it, dude. I did it again. I have to start reading it when it needs it. I mean, I still got it wrong because I clicked Logic Bomb. But that's only because I thought I could only pick 2, when in reality I needed to pick 3. Okay. What's an amplification attack?
An amplification attack is where the attacker implements an amplification factor and dramatically increases the bandwidth sent to a victim during a DDoS attack.
Dang. Logic Bomb is a malicious program or script set to run under particular circumstances. Okay, I was totally wrong about Logic Bomb. Okay. The difference between a DDoS and a DRDoS. See what we got.
With DDoS, the attacks are launched from multiple compromised computers. The attacker installs backdoor applications that grant remote access. The attacker can then use backdoor applications to trigger the zombies to launch an attack at the same time. A DRDoS attack is a DOS attack where the adversary spoofs the victim's IP address and attempts to open connections with servers, which direct responses to the victim's server, rapidly consuming bandwidth.
Okay. Not gonna lie, I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so the DDoS attack are launched for multiple compromised computers. The attacker installs backdoor applications to grant access, remote access. Oh, hand pink waving. Hello. Access. The attacker can use backdoor applications to trigger the zombie to launch an attack at the same time. Okay. A DRDoS attack is a DDoS or is a DOS attack where the adversary. Wait, what?
Adversary.
I'm having a really hard time pronouncing the word adversary. Adversary, spoofing the victim's IP address and attempts to open connections with the server, which direct response to the victim's server, rapidly consuming bandwidth. Okay. One attacks the machine using the machine applications that are on the machine. One uses the machine or spoofs what the machine is, almost like an evil twin. But an evil twin, I'm pretty sure, is SSID. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I want to know why this bad boy is not farming. Tell me why it's not farming.
Phishing is an email-based social engineering attack. The attacker sends email from a supposedly reputable source, such as a bank, to try to elicit private information from the victim. Farming is a means of redirecting users from a legitimate website to a malicious one. Farming does not use social engineering techniques to trick the user, but corrupts the way the computer performs internet name resolution.
So it's not just about redirect. Okay, so it's redirecting the user from a legitimate site to another site. They weren't redirected. They willingly clicked this link that was nefarious. That's the difference. Okay. Multiple. Let's see what it got. We might use ChatGPT.
ARP poisoning perpetuates a MITM attack by broadcasting unsolicited gratuitous ARP reply packets with a spoofed source address. Because ARP has no security, the receiving devices trust this communication.
Okay. What type of attack involves broadcasting unsolicited gratuitous reply packets with spoofed source addresses, followed by launching a man-in-the-middle attack?
ARP poisoning perpetuates a MITM attack by broadcasting unsolicited gratuitous ARP reply packets with a spoofed source address. Because ARP has no security, the receiving devices trust this communication. DNS poison.
100% trust. I wish our society was like that. So source address is definitely referring to the MAC address. And it's referring to the MAC. That's strongly implied. I hate when questions strongly imply something because you don't know 100%. But it's pretty strong because it says source address and it's talking about ARP. The whole thing about ARP is that it's about MAC addresses. Let's see here if we can look at an analogy.
The correct answer is Address Resolution Protocol 3. Analogy. Imagine you tell your friend where your house is, but a scammer overhears, pretends to be you, and tells everyone their house is yours. Now everyone sends messages or money to the scammer's house instead. Classic impersonation. 4. In-depth explanation. ARP.
Whoa, that's like those girls. I see videos of them all the time where they'll see like a really awesome car like a Bugatti or something, and they'll lean against it and they'll start taking pictures next to it to try to make people think that it's their car. And then like the owner comes up and like clicks it. I'm pretty sure it's 100% staged. Still very funny.
ARP hash poisoning. ARP spoofing. ARP address resolution protocol resolves IP addresses to MAC addresses in local networks.
Okay.
Normally, a device asks, who has IP 192.168.1.1? Tell me your MAC. The real device replies with the correct MAC address. In ARP poisoning, the attacker sends unsolicited ARP replies called gratuitous ARP replies, saying, hey, I'm 192.168.1.1. Here's my MAC address. Victim devices update their ARP tables caches to believe the attacker is the gateway or another trusted device. The attacker is now in the middle, intercepting or modifying traffic. A man-in-the-middle MITM scenario. Incorrect options, deauthentication, used to force clients off a Wi-Fi network. Not relevant to ARP or spoofed MAC IP. Ransomware encrypts files and demands payment. Not related to spoofing or MITM. DNS poisoning, similar concept at the domain name level. Reroutes traffic by spoofing DNS records, but doesn't use ARP or MAC addresses.
Okay.
5. Real-world scenario. An attacker on a company's LAN wants to sniff login credentials. They send ARP replies claiming, I'm the default gateway. Now, all traffic from users flows through the attacker, who captures passwords and data before passing it to the real gateway
crazy.
Stealthily. Final answer. Address resolution protocol,
Okay.
RP cache poisoning.
So one time, the very first school I ever taught at, it was the very first year I was there, right? This is not a joke. Like, this is legitimate. I get an email from admin saying that our system had been compromised and that like everyone's full name, birthday, personal information, and social security number had been leaked because we had been hacked by Russian hackers and they were being held ransom. They wanted like $10 million or something. We were a backwoods school. They were not going to pay it. So instead, they gave us a link and said, here's how you can protect your identity. It's on you to contact the government. Best of luck. Crazy. Okay, Max spoofing. The reason I did this is because I wanted to know these other things. I know what a directory attack is now. And I know what ARP poisoning is now. So I really just want to know this one. And I want to reinforce this one. Here we go.
Host can arbitrarily... With a dictionary attack, password cracking software matches a hash to those produced by ordinary words found in a dictionary in an attempt to discover a password. Additional learning.
Really? I kept saying directory. Dyslexia. What can I say? With a dictionary attack, password cracking software. So that's brute force then. Matches a hash to those products by ordinary words found in a dictionary in an attempt to discover a password. And that's why passwords that are just like random letters and symbols and stuff are so much stronger, because it eliminates this as a tactic. Okay. S and Y.
A SYN flood is a DOS attack where the attacker sends numerous SYN requests to a target server, hoping to consume enough resources to prevent the transfer of legitimate traffic.
Okay. That makes sense. You know, there's a form that you can do this in real life to businesses. And the government does it all the time. I don't want to be super like conspiracy theory, but like let's put on our tinfoil hats for a second. So like let's say that you're an independent media company and like you're doing all this independent journalism and like things are going like really, really well. And then like your YouTube channel blows up and you have a lot of money. So now you decide to launch your own website and you hire a few people. And then that start going really, really well. And then you put a paywall on your website for like exclusive content for like really hard hitting news. And your journalisms are going out there and you build this huge following and it's all 100% authentic or pretty darn close. And now it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. Your subscriptions are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden, ring, 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 you get a phone call. And the phone call is from some dude. And he's wearing black, and you know he's wearing all black and sunglasses, even though you're on the phone with him. And the guy says, "Hey, we want you to run this story. It says this and this and this, and I don't want you to post anything about this." And you say, "Well, that's my integrity. I'm not going to do that." And the guy says, 15% of your entire subscriptions come from us. If you don't do what we say, we will cancel all of them immediately all at once, and you will immediately lose 15% of your overall revenue. And you might sit there and think 15% is not that much, right? It could have been 25 or something. 15% is enough to force layoffs. So now you're put in a hard position. Are you going to compromise your integrity? You're going to compromise your integrity and sacrifice the full like trust that you have? Or are you going to stand by your morals and then have to let go Jim, who's been with you for the last 2 years, has a family and just got a mortgage? Like what you're the entrepreneur, you're the business owner. What are you going to do? You know? So very, very similar to a lot of these type of attacks that flood. So in my analogy, it was flooding his profit margins. This one was just flooding the traffic. And tricking from legitimate traffic to not legitimate traffic. So anyway, all right. We're going to reinforce MAC spoofing, and then we're going to move on.
A host can arbitrarily select any MAC and/or IP address and attempt to use it on the network. A threat actor might exploit this to spoof the value of a valid MAC or IP address to try to circumvent an access control list or impersonate a legitimate server.
All right, let's keep going. Okay.
An attacker compromises multiple machines and installs backdoors on them. Then, the attacker triggers the compromised victim machines to launch at the same time. What types of attack does this scenario describe?
So I thought this was...
Three.
Select 3, that's important. I thought this was legitimate logic bomb, because I thought that's what a logic bomb was supposed to do, is that it triggered something. But in actuality, what a logic bomb is that it is a protocol a application that has been installed on your computer through like malware, you know, nefarious means, and through certain actions, it launches immediately, which I guess could launch a program that starts a DDoS attack or something like that. Okay. But that's stretching it. That's making this make sense. When you're studying, you don't want to make things make sense. You want to try to really not do that. You want things to just make sense. Remember, there's only one truth. There's only one reality, and it's not reality's fault if you cannot perceive its reality or the true reality.
Which of the following best describes the concept of LAN hopping? A security vulnerability that allows traffic to bypass VLAN segregation. A feature that enables VLANs to extend across multiple switches without trunking. A method for dynamically assigning VLANs to ports based on traffic type. The process of automatically switching VLANs to optimize network traffic.
A feature that enables VLANs to extend across multiple switches without trunking. The process of automatically switching VLANs to optimize network traffic. So we know what trunking is now because we did that yesterday or the day before. Trunking is basically where you tie a whole bunch of VLANs like together like a bundle of sticks and you say, go this way, right? It makes it easier for a bunch of VLANs to travel through one cable that are going to a switch. But in terms of cybersecurity, like this is not this doesn't say that's a vulnerability. VLAN hopping. So you're hopping between VLANs. A security vulnerability that allows traffic to bypass I'm going to say this one because this is the only one that says anything about security method and bypassing VLAN segregation. Okay. Yeah, everything else didn't make sense. It didn't sound like a security issue. Oh, select 2.
Which of the following attack types can be used for farming, denial of service dues, traffic interception, and corrupting clients' caches? Select 2.
War driving. I don't know what war driving is. We might look that up in a second. Can be used for farming, denial of service. I don't think it's ransomware. I guess they could be like, click this link. No. Ransom. Yeah, I guess they could be like, click this link, but that's not farming. Denial of service, traffic interception. It's got to be these two. Okay. Let's look at what this is real quick. War driving attack. For example, war driving software is Kismac, Aircrack, Kane, and Able. Wow, I've never heard these before. Wi-Fi fishery. I can make that one make sense. Hardware war driving hardware is just as important as the software. Attackers often use generic hardware like a Raspberry Pi computer to connect to a GPS device. So what is it? War driving is the form of cyber attack that involves malicious attackers using hardware and software to search for insecurity wireless networks. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Select 3.
Which of the following is spoofing associated with? Select 3.
Spoofing is associated with all of these, not brute force. Deauthentication, biometrics, and phishing.
A bank employee receives an email from a customer with whom the employee conducts regular business. The email states that the customer's account number changed and requests all funds to be transferred to the new account. The employee changes the account without any further verification. If the new account number is actually associated with an attacker's account, what type of attack has the bank employee fallen victim to?
Phishing.
Answer.
100%. Hey, bank teller. I'm actually related to the Prince of Nigeria, and I have a whole bunch of gold. All I have to do is give him my entire banking information. Can you transfer all of my money into this Swiss bank account?
A network engineer troubleshoots a system and discovers that while the system has an incorrect internet protocol address, the network configuration was set to dynamic addressing. What is the cause of this issue?
Okay, sounds like a rogue DHP server. A network engineer troubleshoots a system and discovers that while the system has an incorrect IP address, the network configuration was set to dynamic addressing. So the reason this is not an expired IP is because it says incorrect. And the difference is that an expired IP address would either be an APOPI, like it would just automatically be an APOPI, or it would not be able to connect to the internet, and it would still have its old IP address. But since it has an incorrect one and it was configured through the dynamic addressing, this is signs of a rogue DHP server. Let's go.
An employee's computer crashes. Upon rebooting the machine, the employee notices pop-ups while trying to access files. The pop-ups indicate that the files were encrypted, and access to the data cannot be granted without the private encryption key that is held by the attacker. Unfortunately, the victim did not back up any of the data to recover it. Which of the following types of attacks is most likely being used by the attacker? Select 2.
Okay. This right here does not matter. There is no reason to put that. Unfortunately, the victim did not back up any of the data to recover it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So the whole idea is that pop-ups came up, so it's ransomware. It's saying access to the data cannot be granted without private encryption key that is held by the attacker. Unfortunately, oh no. Which of the following types of attacks most likely are being used? I want to say crypto malware because it's not phishing. And it's not farming because they're not being redirected anywhere. But it didn't say anything about crypto. But I think I'm using the word crypto in terms of currency, and it's really encryption. Let's see. Yes. That was a tricky one.
What type of attack involves broadcasting unsolicited gratuitous reply packets with spoofed source addresses, followed by launching a man-in-the-middle METIM attack?
Address Resolution Protocol, ARP cache poisoning. Select 3.
An attacker installs a backdoor application on multiple compromised machines. Which of the following attack types can trigger the zombies to launch simultaneously through this backdoor? Select 3.
Sometimes you can know what the answer is just because you know what the answer is not. So, like, I'm still, like, hazy on an amplification attack, although I know that it has something to do with, like, compromised machines and, like, DDoS, like flooding kind of thing. But I don't fully understand it, but I do know what a logic bomb is now, and I know that it has nothing to do with anything I just said, and I know that it only wants 3. Remember, everything can be thought of as a circle. Everything. Okay? You're like 10 plus 6, or sorry, 10 minus 6 equals 4, but 4 minus 6 or plus 6 is 10. I said that all messed up, but I think you understood what I mean. Like, it's fact families. Like, always be thinking in terms of circles. Most everything has a front door and a back door.
Bank employees receive an email informing them that their account is compromised and they needed to update their credentials immediately. Once they click the link provided, they are taken to a site that appeared to be legitimate. However, after entering their credentials, passwords are sent to the hacker's database. Which type of attack have the employees fallen victim to?
So this is phishing. It's not, it's phishing, not farming. Farming is when they would have clicked a link that they thought was correct. And was correct, and then they were redirected without realizing it to another website. Phishing is where it's an email and it tricks you based off of your trust, which AI is doing a lot of phishing lately, or the newer models are anyway.
An attacker changes their host to look like a different host that was previously on the network in order to bypass checks to get onto the network. What type of attack is this called?
Okay, an attacker changes their host to look like a different host that was previously on the network in order to bypass checks. Okay, I'm going to immediately rule out network time protocol abuse. Yeah. It's not synchronization. It's not a flood. It's either MAC spoofing or it's address protocol poisoning. Because what the attacker did is that they changed their host to look like a different host that was previously on the network in order to bypass checks to get into the network. I don't think host is host a synonym for MAC? And how is MAC spoofing different from this? I have questions.
An attacker used deauthentication to interpose a rogue access point AP to perform a denial of service DoS attack against a wireless infrastructure. Which of the following is the wireless encryption security protocol that is most vulnerable to this type of attack?
Wired equivalent, which we learned is actually wireless. The reason it's called wired equivalent is because they were trying to prove how strong that this thing was, that it was equivalent to a wired privacy, when in reality it was total trash because it was the first version. The first version of anything is usually bad. I mean, just look at like social media. Does anybody still have a MySpace? Or what was the thing that came before MySpace? I don't remember, but Facebook figured it out.
An attacker used deauthentication.
Choose 3.
Following is spoofing associated with. Select 3.
Which of the following is spoofing associated with? Biometric, phishing, and deauthentication. Not brute force. This is another one that, like, if you didn't know what some of these were, you could definitely you could definitely just rule out one and then you get it right. Okay, I want to know what the difference between MAC spoofing is and address resolution protocol poisoning. Let's see if we can just read the first two, see if it's gonna tell us.
A host can arbitrarily select any MAC and/or IP address and attempt to use it on the network. A threat actor might exploit this to spoof the value of a valid MAC or IP address to try to circumvent an access control list or impersonate a legitimate server.
Okay.
RP poisoning is where an attacker redirects an IP address to the MAC address of a computer that is not the intended recipient.
Okay. What's the difference between this and this? I feel like something was misspelled. There it is. What did I forget? Oh, I forgot the E. My fat fingers. Great question.
Great question. 1. Restate the question. What's the difference between ARP poisoning and MAC spoofing, and how do they function differently in network attacks? 2. Simplified answer. ARP poisoning equal to tricking other devices into sending their traffic to the attacker. MAC spoofing equal to changing your device's MAC address to impersonate another device. 3.
Okay. So MAC spoofing is impersonating, and then ARP poisoning is tricking the device, the switch, into sending the traffic to the attacker. Okay. One's impersonation, and one is trying to, I don't use the word farm, but they're trying to gain information. They're trying to redirect traffic. Okay, we'll say that. ARP poisoning is redirecting traffic to the hacker. MAC spoofing is impersonating a device.
Impersonate another device.
So let's see what the analogy is.
3. Analogy. Imagine you're in a neighborhood. ARP poisoning is like lying to everyone. If you want to visit the mayor, go to my house. So everyone comes to you thinking you're the mayor. MAC spoofing is like wearing the mayor's name tag so you look like the mayor when you show up somewhere.
Okay. What's up, boy? Did you want in there? Here. No, you're gonna knock over my tea. Lay down. Good boy. Okay, ARP poisoning, aka ARP spoofing. Okay. Works by sending fake ARP replies to the device. Goal is to poison the ARP table so that way so it looks like the gateway. Got it. Okay, that makes total sense. It's why it's commonly used for man in the middle, packet sniffing, and session hijacking. Jesus. Okay. Involves changing your own device MAC address to mimic other devices. And I just find it so funny that when I was doing my A+, they were very adamant about, like, you know, it's next to impossible to change a MAC address. Like, they're solid. They're burned into the hardware. And then it's like, yeah, you can kind of spoof them. And now it's like, hey, this is super common. All right.
An attacker configures their device to appear the same as another device on the network.
MAC
Which type of
spoofing.
attack is being used?
We just learned this. Oh, that was the last one? Okay, I feel like we did pretty good with this one. Way better than yesterday. All right. Last one, boys.
What is the role of regular expression pattern matching in URL filtering?
To increase the speed of filtering, to identify the user's location, to filter by keywords, to encrypt the URL. Ooh. Ooh. Which of the following, what is the role of regular expression pattern, REP, matching? I'm going to say filter by keywords, but I have no idea. That was the only one that made sense.
What is the primary purpose of network access control NAC?
To increase the speed? No. To authenticate endpoints before they fully connect to the network? Possibly. So it is the network access control. To manage network traffic, to monitor network performance. Again, I'm going to say endpoints. But I'm just using test taking skills. I'm not using like network knowledge.
A network administrator is tasked with enhancing the security of their company's network. The administrator decides to implement port security on the company's switches to prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to the network. After configuring port security, the network administrator notices that a particular port on a switch keeps getting disabled, even though the device connected to it is authorized. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue?
Okay. The device is connecting through a wireless connection which is not supported by the security port? Maybe. The MAC address of the device is not included in the static lock list. Well, if it wasn't included, it wouldn't be like coming in and out, because that's what it made it sound like, right? After confirming the port, administrator notices that a particular port of a switch keeps getting disabled. So it meaning that it's coming on and coming back off. The port security is configured with a maximum number of 2 MAC addresses. That could also be a thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would make sense. The port is set to shutdown mode by default when violation occurs. Dang, dude. We're gonna come back to this one. Okay, so I was right. It's one of those.
Which protocol would a switch authenticating via 800 and 2.1 times mechanisms use?
I have no idea. That was a guess. That was literally a lucky guess.
How does an access control list ACL function in network security?
Like, did I not? Well, obviously I did this one, but like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't know a lot of these. How does an access control list, ACL, function in a network security? A list of users who are currently logged into the system, a set of rules that defines what actions are allowed and denied in resources, a database that stores your username. How does an access control list in the network security, how does it function? Digital certificate that verifies user's identity. I'm gonna go with this one. That's the only one that makes sense because it's access control list and it's a digital certificate that verifies user's identity.
What is the main difference between a screened subnet using multiple firewalls and one using a single firewall?
Multiple firewalls configured does not use a permanent network. A single firewall configuration uses a triple homed setup. Yes. Okay, I do remember this. What a triple homed setup is like, you have 3 doors. Like you have a courtyard and there's one guard and there's 3 doors behind him. And he's supposed to guard all 3. So like if you come, like you could, you could juke him out and like you could get around him and stuff like that.
A network administrator uses a program that can use an access control list, ACL, to allow or deny control traffic from certain sources and apply rate limiting if a source threatens to overwhelm the route processor. What is this called?
It's not DHCP snooping and it's not MAC filtering. Can use an access to allow or deny controlled traffic from certain sources to apply rate limit if the source threatens to overwhelm the route process. I'm going to say it's one of these. Yeah. Man, I guess I did not do well on this one.
In order to help
Select
prevent
2.
unauthorized devices from connecting to a network security engineer needs to implement a solution where the switch authenticates devices and then activates the port. Which of the following options uses this functionality to help safeguard against this type of unwarranted access? Select 2.
Okay, in order to help prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to a network security engineer needs to implement a solution where the switch authenticates devices and then activates the port. Authenticates the device. So maybe ART inspection, but I was under the impression that there was no security for ARP. Maybe there is. Institute of Electrical Engineers. No, that's just no, I don't think so. Media access control limited and filtering. Port-based network access control. PNAC. Media. Select 2. I think it's these 3. So what's happening is that that the switch authenticates the device and then activates the port. So media access control and limiting filtering, port-based network access control. I'm going to say it's these 2. False. All right, let's learn. Okay, how does an access control, ACL, function in a network? It sets the rules that define what actions are allowed or denied for resources. And I thought it was a digital certificate. I'm a big dummy.
An access control list, ACL, is a set of rules associated with a resource that defines what actions, principals, users, or service accounts are allowed or denied to perform on that resource. It is a crucial component in managing access rights in both DAC and RBAC models.
Okay, so there's no real reason to have ChatbotGPT help us because this is literally its definition. What is an ACL list? How's it function? It makes a set of rules and defines what actions are allowed or denied for a resource.
In order to help prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to a network security engineer needs to implement a solution where the switch authenticates devices and then activates the port. Which of the following options uses this functionality to help safeguard against this type of unwarranted access? Select 2.
Yeah, I thought this was just a standard. I thought this was just a...
The IEEE 802 one-time standard defines a PNAC mechanism, which means that the switch or router performs some sort of authentication of the attached device before activating the port.
Okay. Okay. So it's a standard, and the standard uses the PNAC. MAC limiting and filtering provides some protection against attacks, but they are not a means of ensuring only valid hosts are connecting to the network. Okay, so it can do it, but it's not a very good one. ARP inspection provides some protection against attacks, but is not a means of ensuring only valid hosts are on the network. Okay. Okay.
A network administrator is tasked with enhancing the security of their company's network. The administrator decides to implement port security on the company's switches to prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to the network. After configuring port security, the network administrator notices that a particular port on a switch keeps getting disabled, even though the device connected to it is authorized. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue?
Okay. So I remember doing this one. I thought it was this one, that it was connecting through a wireless connection, which is not supported by the port security. After re-looking at it, that doesn't make any sense, because if it was not supported, it would just automatically be down. Okay? The MAC address of the device is not included in the stack. If that is true, then it would just automatically be disabled. It wouldn't keep getting disabled. Okay? The port is set to shutdown mode by default when a violation occurs. This is the only one that kind of seems like it could be. The port security is confirmed with a maximum of 2 MAC addresses. The reason I was unsure about this is that I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that port security could be confirmed with a limited number of MAC addresses. I didn't know you could change that. Here we go.
The correct answer is that the port security is configured with a maximum of 2 MAC addresses, and the device occasionally uses a different network adapter. If the device occasionally uses a different network adapter, it would present a different MAC address to the switch, potentially exceeding the configured maximum of 2 MAC addresses allowed for that port. This would trigger a security violation, causing the port to enter a violation state, which could lead to the port being disabled if it's in shutdown mode. This scenario aligns with the dynamic nature of sticky MACs and the behavior of port security when the number of permitted MAC addresses is exceeded.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Let's keep going.
A network administrator uses a program that can use an access control list, ACL, to allow or deny control traffic from certain sources and apply rate limiting if a source threatens to overwhelm the route processor. What is this called?
Control plane policy. Policing. I feel like I knew that.
Control plane policing is a policy that is designed to mitigate the risk from route processor vulnerabilities.
Okay, and why is it not this one?
Extensible Authentication Protocol is an access point that can implement a similar port security mechanism to switches. This is configured on the access point by Selection Enterprise Authentication. EEP also allows for device authentication using digital certificates.
Okay. So control plane policing is a policy that is designed to mitigate the risk from route processor vulnerabilities. Okay. To allow or deny access control, or not access control, but controlled traffic from certain sources, and apply rate limiting if a source threatens to overwhelm the processor. Okay. That one's a little hard for me to wrap my head around for some reason. I don't really know why, but we're going to keep going. What is the role of a regular expression pattern matching and URL filtering to filter by keyword? Okay, that was the one that made the most sense, but I didn't really understand, like, what does this have to do with security?
Regular expression pattern matching is used in URL filtering to filter URLs based on specific keywords or the path and query parameters contained within them. This allows for more granular control over which URLs are blocked or allowed.
Okay, there it is.
Increasing the speed of filtering is not the primary role of regular expression pattern matching. It's about precision in filtering. Encrypting the URL is not related to regular expression pattern matching. It's a function of security protocols like HTTPS. Identifying the user's location is not the purpose of regular expression pattern matching in URL filtering. Additional learning. Previous back to
Okay, what is the primary purpose of network access control? To authenticate endpoints before they fully connect to the internet. That makes a lot of sense. Monitor network performance, to manage network traffic, to access the speed of... No, it's definitely not access to the speed. To manage network traffic. I could see how that could make sense, but that's not it.
NAC's role is in security, specifically in controlling device access to the network, rather than managing the flow or volume of network traffic. NAC is not a tool for performance monitoring. Its purpose is to secure the network by controlling device access.
Okay. To authenticate endpoints before they fully connect to the network. That's what it's, because it's access. Okay. Our friend ChatbotGPT is going to help us with this one. Next question. Okay, why does that? We're going to read this.
Under 802.1 times, the device requesting access is the supplicant. The switch, referred to as the authenticator, enables the extensible authentication protocol over LAN EPOL protocol only, and waits for the device to supply authentication data. One solution to the risk of rogue access points is to use EPTLS security so that the authentication server and clients perform mutual authentication. 802.1 times defines the use of EP over wireless EPOW to allow an access point to forward authentication data without allowing any other type of network access. The IEEE 802.1 times port-based network access control NAC protocol provides the means of using an EAP method when a device connects to an Ethernet switch port, wireless access point, or VPN gateway.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's a bunch of stuff that I don't really know. Let's
The correct answer is EAPOL, Extensible Authentication Protocol over LAN. Explanation in 5 parts. 1. Restate. 2. Simplified answer. EAPOL is the protocol used by switches to carry authentication messages in 802.1 times. 3. Analogy. Think of 802.1 times like a security checkpoint at a building entrance. The device is trying to enter the guest, the switch is the door guard. EAPOL is the clipboard that holds the list of guests and lets the guard check credentials. 4. In-depth explanation. 802.1 times is used for port-based access control on wired or wireless networks. It involves 3 roles. Supplicant, for example, a laptop. Authenticator, for example, a switch, or AP authentication server, for example, a radius server. The switch authenticator uses EPOL to relay authentication data between the supplicant and the server. EPOL operates at layer 2, allowing communication before the device is given full network access. 5. Real-world example. You're setting up secure access at a university. Each student must authenticate before getting Wi-Fi or wired access. When a student plugs into an Ethernet port, the switch uses EPOL to handle the 802.1 times login process. Only after successful verification does the switch grant normal traffic flow. Summary of options. Option role in ACK network access control, broad framework, not the protocol use deep TELS authentication method within EAP, not the layer 2. Protocol EPOL correct. Protocol used by switches in 802.1 x EAPOW not a valid protocol, likely a distractor. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna really need to kind of sleep on this one for me to fully grasp it. Like, I think on the surface level, I have memorized this scenario with this, but I don't really have a lot of substance or like anchors of full depth understanding. So I'm gonna have to sleep on that one. Yeah.
A network administrator uses a program that can use an access control list, ACL, to allow or deny control traffic from certain sources and apply rate limiting if a source threatens to overwhelm the route processor. What is this called?
Control plane policing. Yes. This one's new.
A pre-shared key PSK passphrase generates a 256-bit master key MK. Which types of packet encryption can utilize the 128-bit temporal key TK subsequently generated by the MK? Select 2.
Whoo! I think it's these two, but I'm totally unsure. That's another one I'm probably going to sleep on as well.
What is the primary purpose of a screened subnet in network security?
Primary purpose of a screened subnet in cybersecurity, in network security. There it is. To eliminate the need of firewalls, to control access between external and internal networks. Well, now that I understand subnets so much better, that makes the most sense. Was the primary purpose of screened subnets in network security to control access between external and internal networks, to facilitate unrestricted public access to internal resources. This also makes sense as well, but I think this one makes the most sense.
A network administrator is tasked with enhancing the security of their company's network. The administrator decides to implement port security on the company's switches to prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to the network. After configuring port security, the network administrator notices that a particular port on a switch keeps getting disabled, even though the device connected to it is authorized. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue?
The port security is configured with a maximum of 2 MAC addresses. So when it changes, it doesn't know what to do, so then it switches it off, which is why it comes on sometimes, but it doesn't come on all the time.
The security network administrator of a company wants to ensure only authorized hosts are connecting to the network. Which options would an administrator utilize on routers and switches to provide port-based authentication for network access to devices? Select 2.
So the IEEE is a standard, and that standard that came out of that standard is the port-based network access control.
What is the primary purpose of network access control, NAC?
Was the primary purpose of network access control, not to increase the speed, not to monitor network performance, to manage traffic, to authenticate endpoints before they fully connect to the network. What is an access control list? It is not certificates, a database that stores user passwords, a set of rules that defines the actions that allow or deny for a resource. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna use Papa GPT here. Next question.
The PSK passphrase generates a 256-bit master key MK, which is used to generate the 128-bit temporal key TK for RC4 TKIP packet encryption. The PSK passphrase generates a 256-bit master key MK, which is used to generate the 128-bit temporal key TK for AES CCMP packet encryption. Extended Unique Identifier EUI is IEEE's preferred term for a MAC address. EUI64 is a 64-bit hardware interface ID. The error checking field contains a 32-bit 4-byte checksum.
Whoa. Extended Unique Identifier and EUI is EEE's preferred term for a MAC address. So then why do we say MAC address? Oh my God. I thought things were more standardized than that.
Called a cyclic redundancy check CRC, and is calculated based on the contents of the frame. The correct answers are AES, CCMP, RC4, TKIP. 1. Restated question. When a
Oh, it's not
pre-shared
gonna
key
let me see
PSK
it.
is used to generate a 256-bit master key MK, which two encryption methods use the resulting 128-bit temporal key TK? 2. Simplified answer. AES, CCMP, and RC4 TKIP both use a 128-bit temporal key TK for encrypting wireless packets. 3. Analogy. Think of the master key MK like the main door key to your house. From it, you generate temporary one-time use keys TKs to lock individual rooms' packets. Some rooms use modern digital locks AES, CCMP. Others use older mechanical locks RC4, KIP. Both still rely on a key derived from that original master. 4. In-depth
makes
explanation. In WPA two-personal PSK mode, a 256-bit master key MK is generated from the passphrase. That MK is used in a key derivation function to create a 128-bit TK temporal key. TKIP temporal key integrity protocol uses RC4 encryption, 128-bit TK, used in WPA older standard.
Okay.
CCMP counter mode with cipher blockchaining message authentication code protocol uses AES encryption, 128-bit TK, used in WPA2 and WPA3. 5. Real-world example. If you're setting up a Wi-Fi network, WPA2 PSK with AES CCMP uses a TK for each session to ensure security. Older routers using WPA with TKIP also generate a TK to encrypt each packet using RC4. Why the others are incorrect? Option Y, it's wrong, CRCA checksum tool, not an encryption method. EUI64, a method for creating IPv6 addresses, not related to encryption. Let me know when
Okay.
you're ready for the
That's
next
why it
question.
looked familiar.
Error in message stream.
So now that I know that EUI is basically just a MAC address, just the IEEE's like preferred way of saying it. Now this makes sense. Why that this is because this is basically MAC, IPv6, IPv4, and how it translates. Okay, that makes sense. And it also makes sense that's why I picked that, because it just seemed familiar. A lot of times, like, if you don't know the answer, just picking something familiar, it's not necessarily going to help, but like it's usually what you do. The AES and the RC4 both use the master key, the 256-bit master key that is generated. So the RC4 uses the master key to generate a temporary key. I'm starting to remember this from this was also in the A+. The AES uses the same master key to create its temporal key. So I may not fully understand what this is, and I may not fully understand what this is, but I do understand that both those things get their temporal key from the same source. What was the question again?
A pre-shared key PSK passphrase generates a 256-bit master key MK. Which types of packet encryption can utilize the 128-bit temporal key TK subsequently generated by the MK?
Okay.
Select 2.
And that was the actual question itself. We're not going to reread the generation. It just, if you leave that, it messes with the thread. It's way better for it to generate it correctly. So I'm going to let it go. Let's keep going.
How does an access control list ACL function in network security?
It is a set of rules that defines what actions are allowed or denied for a resource.
How does regular expression pattern matching enhance keyword filtering in URL management?
To filter by keywords.
Which types of packet encryption use a pre-shared key PSK passphrase that generates a 256-bit master key MK, and from the resulting MK, creates a 128-bit temporal key TK? Select 2.
Okay, again, we still only have a gentle understanding of this, but I know that EUI is the IEEE's standard, or their preferred thing to call a Mac. They don't want to call it a Mac. They want to call it this. I don't remember what the acronym is, but it's basically a Mac. Okay, it basically just means Mac. It is a Mac. Okay, and what this thing is that it's the convergence or being allowing IPv6 and IPv4 to like talk to each other, or it's used for that. Not sure what this is used for, but I know that it has nothing to do with the master phrase, the master key. These are the only two that can use it. I'm not entirely sure what these things are, but I know that they use the master key in order to make their temporal keys, which is what the question is asking. Yes.
In order to help prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to a network security engineer needs to implement a solution where the switch authenticates devices and then activates the port. Which of the following options uses this functionality to help safeguard against this type of unwarranted access? Select 2.
Okay, so it's definitely the IEEE, and what that means is because that's a standard. The PNAC is what is used under this standard. Done. Okay, I didn't do as bad as I thought. Section 1, man, I wrecked. I did really, really good. Okay, so tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow we're gonna go over Section 5. Section 5 is gonna be a long one. It's probably gonna be a really long stream. I hope that you're enjoying this stuff. I hope that you're learning. Go back and watch the whole streams. I'm probably gonna go and edit them down so that way it's like section by subsection. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to do that, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do it within the next few weeks. And I'm gonna also be like making videos about how I'm making my own home server. Also, either tonight or tomorrow, I cannot remember which one, or I cannot decide when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get Donkey Kong Bonanza, and then we're going to play that. But I'll be doing that in the evening. I won't be doing that in the morning. I'm not sure what kind of streams I'm going to be doing next week. I'll figure that out over the weekend. If you want to keep up with me so that way you know what's going on, just follow me on Instagram. I'm usually fairly active on there. Or you can just look on YouTube. I usually post it so that way you can kind of see when the next stream is. All you have to do is click the little live tab. But if you like the content, if you're learning it, if you thought things were cool or interesting, go ahead, subscribe, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, you can always DM me, or you can just drop it in the chat. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got. I am